Welcome to the first episode of Running Real Estate. I called it an edition before. I didn't even know what to call it, but this is something that has been in the works for some time here. We've been talking about it for years. We've started, we've stopped, we changed the name, we changed the format, but excited to bring you the first episode 1. Running real estate. And the goal here is to talk a little bit about maybe our company, what it's like to run a real estate company, what it's like to run a real estate business, but then also what goes on in our local area here between the Ocean City and Maryland and Delaware beaches, and then have a few different guests on from time to time. But today, for episode 1, I am excited to bring the person on that I've discussed this with the most over the course of the last few months and has been instrumental in trying to get this up off the ground. And that is our Director of Marketing, Richelle. So, Richelle, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. But so Richelle, just to give our listeners / viewers, whether you're listening to this in the audio format or watching it online, with YouTube, Richelle, give us a little bit of background. Tell us a little bit more about you, where you're from, and how you came to be a part of the Ryan Haley real estate team here, as well as Atlantic Shore Sotheby's International Realty.
So I'm from Pennsylvania, kind of Pittsburgh area, Alton and Johnstown. Went to school in Pittsburgh and came down to Ocean City to bartend for the summer. And the story of everyone, never left. Came back, decided this is where I wanted to be, loved it. I met my now fiance, and I now have a 10-month-old, and we live here in Berlin. Kind of crazy how everything works out. So then when I was going back to work, I decided I needed something more of a career-wise. I have an online boutique that I have, so I've been doing all of everything for that, but the marketing, everything, a lot of social media, a lot of work that goes into that without you wouldn't think. So then that's when I found you guys when I was looking at careers, when I was going back to work after maternity leave. And now I've been here since April, and I love it. It's like the best job. It's great.
Well, we're extremely happy to have you. So one of the unique things that I think we were attracted to when you first came by and we had a chance to meet was the fact that you did have your online store and you've had some experience with regard to where our world has shifted, which is social media marketing, is that online presence where you were marketing goods, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same concept of marketing real estate, but obviously in real estate, there's a lot of moving parts. We have our agents and featuring their successes, and we're always hoping to grow the business and attract new agents. But our first and foremost duty as a real estate company is to help our clients buy and sell real estate. So let me ask you, what would you say, coming from not necessarily in the real estate world, what would you say is kind of the most interesting thing or the most surprising thing when it comes to marketing, the marketing job on the real estate side?
I would say just all of the work that goes into it. You always see, everyone, I have friends that do real estate, just sold, just listed, new on the market, like posting their new houses that they have for sale. And it always looked like, wow, that's great. It always seemed so easy just because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And now, working with everyone, it's crazy to me, how much work does go into it, how many people it takes to make the machine run, We have Mary, the director of operations. We have Steven, the sales manager, kind of helps the agents direct them. There's a lot of work that goes into it between the agents and the team, which I think is great that we're a part of a team. Having the help, having everybody to help. Even when I need help with something, I can just, Mary, I probably blow Mary's phone up more than anybody. But just all of the work that goes into it.
I don't know. I think I hit her up pretty hard.
100% it's Ryan. I had that thought as soon as I said it. But yeah, I would just say all of the work that goes into it, it's wild to me because there's, like I said, there's a lot. All of the behind closed doors between, in the office, online, all of the work that goes in, even all the things you need to get signed, all of this, keeping track of everything, I think is a big thing.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts,
Yeah.
a lot of different hats. And I mean, at least to do it the way we want to do it, it takes a team. It takes, a neighborhood, a community to come together to really make our properties and our product stand out. It's not. And I've always said that, as an independent agent, I feel bad for him to some extent, even though I've been there. But I mean, you got to wear a lot of hats, and in 1 minute you're representing a buyer, next minute you're representing a seller, and then if you get home and you still got some energy, maybe you're going to do the marketing role, and then you're going to write some bills, write some checks to pay the bills. So it's a lot of moving parts where we've decided to build it out as a team, to build a company that has great support, like you in the marketing role, like our director of operations, Mary, and Steven, who's working with the agents, and we've got bookkeeping, and we've got, our coaching company, and we got Riley. We just have a lot. And Frank, Frank, who's helping us, as a courier and getting the signs out there, the lock boxes, making keys. There's a lot to it, at least do it our way.
Right. And everyone's there to help you when you need help. It's great. It's kind of like a family.
Right. Somebody's always there to, if you don't know the answer, one way or another, you're going to be able to find the answer to it. So a lot of moving parts. Marketing's definitely a big part of our success. And I've said this a bunch of times, is that you could be the best real estate agent in the world, but if nobody knows about you, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So that's where real estate truly is. Marketing. It's the most important piece. And you have to have lots of pillars, of where you're going to feature your properties and where you're going to try to get somebody's attention, whether it's video, whether it's TV, it's radio, it's social media, it's print advertising. We've got to kind of put it all out there and then tie it together. And that's kind of what you do, even our print mailing. So you touched on one thing you touched on, which you didn't necessarily directly say, but I kind of heard, is there's a lot that goes into being successful in helping a seller sell their property, and there's no denying the fact, and most people have heard this through the headlines, that real estate sales are down over 30% here in 2022. The market has shifted and is continuing to shift. So the tools that some agents decided to use 6 months to a year ago, like a cell phone, taking a few pics, putting it in the MLS, and hoping and praying it's sold by Monday, those tactics are not working anymore. So to be successful today, you really have to make sure that you're presenting the property in the best light. You're doing the professional photography, which you orchestrate. Let me ask you, when it comes to a seller preparing their home for sale, what would make your life easier when you walk into that home? What can they do to prep it for that initial photography and videography?
I would say, depersonalize, declutter to a degree. Still, like if it's a family home, you have their photos, help people envision their lives. Like, how could this home fit us? But still kind of decluttering it to a degree where there's not, all of your medals, your plaques, or your favorite sports team, like everywhere. One, because decluttering, it helps the space feel bigger, but mainly you want those people, when they walk in, they can see themselves living in that home. Right. So kind of just to a degree, depersonalizing and decluttering and just making it homey, but still empty enough that they can picture themselves in it.
Right. So not distracting from the overall structure of the home and its layout and its flow. You don't want somebody coming in. I mean, we see this all the time, but sports teams, you're obviously from Pittsburgh, right? And that's the interesting thing about the Ocean City area. It's such a melting pot for like sports teams, but it's a big part of everything they do. So if you're too over personalized with your favorite sports team, you might alienate somebody who does not like your sports team. Right. So just subtle.
Kind of like a blank slate.
Right.
But helping to accentuate everything in the home.
Right. So the throw cover of the Steelers over top of the sofa, somebody could envision that's replaced with a Ravens throw towel, right? Or towel, or whatever you call it. So and then you also mentioned too, like, if say there's been it's been a primary residence for somebody, and they've got a family and they've got kids who've had accomplishments, whether it's horseback riding or cheerleading or football or whatever, to have maybe one medal or two medals on the wall, and a few of their pictures, but not the entire room filled with it.
Right. You just don't want too much going on, distracting from the home.
Got it. So with regard to that, you're not only orchestrating getting the photography, but then you're coming back and you're overseeing the editing, you're picking the photos that we're going to utilize. Which ones are we going to feature that tells the story of that home? But one of the things I wanted to touch on is the video world. How much video has changed, and I know you and I have gone back and forth on this as to which way we need to focus, and I think the answer is both. Mm-hmm. But maybe just share with our listeners here today, what has changed from a video standpoint? What are we seeing more of?
Definitely a more of short form vertical video. Social media, love it or hate it, it's here, it's everywhere. Big part of everyone's lives, so they're scrolling. If it doesn't catch your eye right away, they don't care. So if it, the very first thing is nothing that's like, wow, okay, next one, because you have how many other videos under there. It's entertainment also, so even though, like, on social media, people are there to be entertained, but you can also inform them and entertain them at the same time. So it's kind of like they don't really know that you're like, here, look at this. But they like to look at it because, it's aesthetic, it's pretty, it's to pretty music, it's showcasing the home, all of its best features. And then they'll be like, I really like that. Like, I'm going to look into more. And then we direct them to the full video on YouTube, or, they call you and get like a video walkthrough, or they'll schedule a showing. It's kind of just the short-term video. You got to catch their eye, grab them in, and then they're going to learn more.
Right. So that's kind of come across all platforms as of now. It started as TikTok. And then it kind of evolved to Instagram. But I mean, like we talked about this, like the shape of your phone is more of a vertical shape. I mean, so it's long, it's thin, as opposed to flipping it around and going wide, right? So that video, when you're scrolling through those platforms, it's long and thin.
Right.
So
it's big, it's there, it's right at you, versus turning your phone, or it's just a little rectangle.
Right. So we've had to adapt, and that's where you've taken our long form video and kind of re-edited it, and you film a lot of times two ways, right?
Mm-hmm. So if anybody out there knows of a tool that can hold two phones at one time, but the camera's at the same spot, let us know.
Right, which is difficult because then you're like looking at different spots.
Right.
And your eyes
in
don't
the house.
match up.
The house doesn't have to look at you.
True. I'm thinking of myself, right? Too many videos. That's right. So, but at the same time, the power of Sotheby's International Realty, I mean, I think some of our listeners know this, but if not, the number one most visited YouTube luxury real estate site, our site on YouTube is Sotheby's International Realty. The beautiful horizontal, film style walkthroughs of these properties, and that's what Sotheby's is known for. So we just got to get them there, right? And that's where even YouTube has changed a little bit. They got their shorts now, so we're seeing more of that vertical. But there's like on Sotheby's side, it's definitely still that wide. So we're trying to get them there with the short form, get them to watch the long form,
right,
and draw them in.
Yep.
So that's definitely one change we've seen. We look at all the platforms. What do you think is the most successful platform we have? Where do you think we're getting the most eyes?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would have to say Instagram.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like you said, it started with TikTok, but I think Instagram, because it's in, Facebook and Instagram, they're owned by the same people. Everything is shared. Facebook recommends your Instagram videos to people that have similar interests, or you can share them to the same one and they show up in their feed. You don't have to click a link. I would say Instagram.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's evolved. Like I remember like when I first started doing social media, obviously it was like MySpace, right? And then it went to Facebook, and I wouldn't even touch Instagram. I remember there'd be like, people were like, oh, you got to go to Instagram. I wouldn't even open up the app forever. And then obviously I think I've drawn to Instagram a little bit more now. Now the one I don't open up very much is TikTok. Like I forget about it. But like LinkedIn definitely has a unique group. So it's almost like, depends on the demographic a little bit. Depends on who your audience is. And that's quite honestly, we're trying to find anybody that wants to buy our real estate, right? When we're working and we've been hired for a seller, the goal is to go as wide as possible to reach as many people. And then ultimately, it's like a funnel. It comes down to the bottom. And at the end of the day, you need one person to buy that house, right? But if you only have a database of 5 potential people versus hundreds or millions of people, right? And hundreds of thousands or millions of people, your chances of selling that property are much greater. And that's honestly why I think people hire us. I think that's why we're aligned with Sotheby's International Realty, is because the reach is international, right? It's a huge reach. But then on a local basis, we're trying to take that same kind of quality content and then and feature it with our team in our local company. So, all right. First episode here of running real estate, and just to give some people some context, the reason I've chosen running real estate for now is I like to run, right? I'm a runner, and the idea of running a real estate business and then obviously real estate, combining the two, is where we came up with the name. So we'll see if it sticks this time around. And also any of our viewers, our listeners, whether you're watching it on YouTube or you're listening to it in Spotify or one of those locations, if you have any ideas as to what you'd like us to talk about, topics you'd like us to talk about in the future, please, send me a DM, send me a message, text, whatever way you can track me down, and let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll be sure to talk about it in the future. So, Richelle, what else do you have to add to the first episode of Running Real Estate?
I don't think anything. This was fun. I'm glad we did it. We've been trying to get it, so I'm excited to see how this goes.
Just do it, right? Just start. Just start. That's the hardest thing, is to actually start. So here we go. Episode 1 in the books. Like, subscribe. Let us know some comments and some feedback, and we look forward to seeing you here on the next episode number 2.
Yep.
See ya.
Thank you.